Thank you all very much. Now it's my pleasure to introduce the theme of this meeting, Project Earthrise. There's never been a more important time to imagine a better world and to begin to heal the profound systemic disease and decay in all systems, on all scales. It's time to address the many challenges from their common origin by shifting the underlying value systems that created them in the first place. That means it's time to answer the need for more imaginative solutions that build on the very best of human nature, the deeper values that unite, empower, refocus priorities of individuals and groups towards healthier futures. 2020 has been a time of profound and sudden, unprecedented change. It's shown us just how interconnected everything is, and it's made planetary health very personal. It's also shown us how rapidly we can change our priorities and our behaviours. It's been a wake-up call to many broken or dysbiotic systems, but also an opportunity to shift our trajectory. COVID-19 in many ways has been a tipping point. The economic fallout alone means that we cannot simply return to where we were. It's an opportunity to reassess our collective values, our priorities, our sense of self and community, hopefully as a gateway towards a more resilient future. And for all of us personally, it has been a time to reassess our priorities, an opportunity to think about how we want to all live on the other side of this. Sometimes looking back can actually help us move forward. And that is the vision behind Project Earthrise. It's inspired by one of the most profound moments in modern history. For the awareness and perspective and unity that it triggered, a wake-up call on every level, from the personal to the planetary. When Apollo 8 left for the moon, it left behind a world in turmoil, war, riots, even a pandemic, famine, social upheaval, and environmental destruction. And they were utterly unprepared for what they discovered as they circumnavigated the dusty, dry, desolate surface of the moon before the unscheduled photograph that changed the world, the photograph known as Earthrise. The most beautiful, heart-catching sight of my life, the only thing in space that had any colour, said one. And Bill Anders, who took the photograph, later said, "We came all the way to the moon to discover the Earth." It had an utterly profound effect on personal and planetary awareness at the time. It was described as bending human consciousness. That 19 cents of film became one of the most important parts of a multi-billion-dollar project. It stirred collective imagination with awe, wonder, and a sense of unity, and led to a frame shift in perspective, sparking large environmental and social movements. It inspired the first Earth Day in 1970 that had a far broader agenda than perhaps it has today. They were focused on crisis of poverty, blight, racism, war. Yes, they were concerned about environmental decay, but they were also concerned about exploitative economic systems as a common denominator. In other words, it was a far broader call to address fundamental value systems. The LA Times at the time described this outward journey as having a remarkable effect in turning awareness inward to our own condition and that of our troubled planet, the kind of shift in consciousness that indeed we need to reignite right now. The grand challenges of the Anthropocene are mostly of our making and ultimately stem from human attitudes to each other and to the environment. The solutions must therefore also be of our making, recognising the interdependence of these challenges and that connectivity is a vital part of the solutions. Concepts like planetary health recognise these interwoven complexities, but still rarely confront the underlying value systems that created the problems in the first place, or address the attitudes that perpetuate them. It's often still dominated, the global agenda, by the worst of human nature, neglecting the best of our nature, often devalued, the importance, for example, of empathy, kindness, hope, love, creativity, and mutual respect, the deeper values that unite, empower, and refocus our priorities as individuals and as groups. In doing so, though, we have failed to recognise that this is part of the problem and that these are arguably our greatest assets in overcoming these large problems. In this meeting, we aim to normalise more mutualistic, creative approaches, including the perspectives of traditional cultures, to positively influence normative value systems. It is vital that we redefine progress and growth in more meaningful ways, recognising that not all innovation is improvement. We should place greater value on deeper wisdom. Technology, of course, must be a vital part of the solutions, but we must apply this with more mutualistic value systems as a compass. And to quote Renee DeBos, lest we end up with a jumble of technologies and counter-technologies that smother body and soul. So the planetary health agenda should equally consider our social and spiritual ecology as it does our natural ecology. We must address broken systems as well, or rather the broken spirit as well as broken systems. And our agenda very much reflects this. We seek to place a higher value on self-development, creativity, imagination in solving our challenges at all scales. We want to place a greater value on positive assets in health and resilience, or wonder, joy, compassion, for example, recognising that these also mediate social responsibility and greater environmental concern. It's time to employ all our resources to value our humanity as much as our technology, and using our heart as well as our intellect should really not be a radical concept, but too often these things are dismissed as soft and fuzzy and unscientific. So our agenda, you'll see, tells a story. The story of health across all scales, emphasising the multidimensional interactions and bidirectional relationships. We recognise that the future of health depends not only on reducing adversity, but also restoring the protective and buffering effects of nature, biodiversity, traditional foods, community, and purpose, the things that are often undervalued and underestimated. And of course, for true flourishing, we recognise that all of these things must be considered from the very first moments of life, and that grassroots efforts of all kinds are fundamentally important. And when we consider starting at the roots, we mean that in every sense, including the foundations of ecosystems, such as microbes, which of course form the foundations of every ecosystem, including our own. Starting at the roots also means starting at the foundations of life. And we have a number of sessions emphasising the importance of developmental and transgenerational approaches to lifelong physical, emotional health and the attitudes and behaviours that support this. Starting at the roots also emphasises the importance of community solutions that bring out the very best in human nature. Our agenda underscores the importance of cultural expression, artistic creations and narrative in linking the health of people, place and planet. We encourage everybody to work in the space between silos of expertise to harness the spirit of connectivity, community, collaboration, to bring that sense of purpose and belonging. We also have a very broad engagement with diverse expertise and rich perspectives to create this shared change narratives. We know that seeing a problem from as many angles as possible will help bring solutions into clearer focus. Even small changes can signal important shifts in health behaviours of individuals, but also in wider values. We know that when we begin any journey, a subtle shift in our trajectory at the beginning can have a large effect on where we end up. So expanding awareness and changing attitudes can change everything. This is the real roots of everything we do as individuals and societies. It's the most powerful thing that we can do as individuals. So imagining the future is the very first step in getting there. And we might all begin by asking ourselves, what kind of world do we want to live in? And we've asked all of our speakers to consider this, and we invite everybody else to consider this very important question at the conference, but also beyond this. Thank you very much. That, of course, brings us to session 1, which is all about broadening our vision to set the stage for change. We have an incredible lineup, not just for this session, but for the entire conference. So I want to thank all of our speakers in every session. We know that you're all on different time zones, so just a reminder that you can watch the live sessions or catch up or watch again at your leisure. If you're watching this live, you can join the chat and make comments as we go, and I and the other chairs will make a note of your comments. We do have separate campfire sessions devoted entirely to conversation and discussions about the preceding sessions. So we invite you all to come along to those. Just check the program on the website for the time in your area. I will not be introducing all of our speakers individually to save time. They'll introduce themselves. But it is my very great pleasure to introduce our first speaker, our keynote speaker, Dr. Cornel West. There could not be a better person to remind us of the attributes we need to find opportunities in our challenges. A man who embodies purpose with passion, truth with courage, strength with humility. He shares his deep understanding with a full heart. He's an acclaimed American philosopher, a political activist, social critic, author, and one of America's best-known public intellectuals. He's a professor at Harvard, emeritus professor at Princeton, and has written over 20 books and appeared in over 25 documentaries and films, after making his film debut in The Matrix. He continues to make frequent TV appearances and is an inspiration to so many. We are deeply, deeply honoured that he is sharing his heart and his thoughts with us today. Thank you, Dr. West.